Racist cop pulls gun on black man, freaks out when Admiral reveals his real identity. The click of the safety was a sharp metallic sound that split the suburban silence. It was a sound Senior Chief Marcus Thorne knew better than his own heartbeat. It meant threat. "On your knees, trespasser!" The man, Brian, screamed, his face a blotchy, furious red. He was pointing a 9mm pistol at Marcus's chest, his hand shaking, a rookie mistake. His finger was on the trigger, a fatal one. Brian was high on a cocktail of racism and a pathetic need for authority, his HOA security patch a cheap fake. He just saw a black man in a Navy SEAL t-shirt as a threat. Marcus's eyes were preternaturally calm. He didn't see a cop. He saw a coward. His mind, a cold, running computer, calculated the 2 moves it would take to disarm him, or the one it would take to end him. But he just stood there, a rock against a screaming, pathetic wave, letting the man condemn himself. Because Brian, in his power-tripping rage, had no idea. He had just drawn a weapon on one of the most lethal operators in the entire U.S. Armed Forces. Before we dive into the moment this fake cop's world is systematically dismantled, let me know in the comments. Have you ever been so underestimated it was almost comical? Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you are ready to see what happens when a mall cop picks a fatal fight with a Tier 1 Navy SEAL. Now, let's rewind to 10 minutes earlier and find out how this all went so wrong for him. Senior Chief Marcus Thorne was, by every definition, a ghost. He had spent the last 18 years in the shadows, a scalpel for U.S. naval special warfare. He had led kill or capture missions in the mountains of Afghanistan, fast-roped onto hijacked tankers in the Indian Ocean, and conducted halo jumps into territories that didn't officially exist on any map. He was a quiet, disciplined professional who had seen true evil, who had faced down men who were true evil, and had done what was necessary. And now, for the first time in his adult life, he was home. He was on a 30-day leave, and he had finally done it. He'd cashed out his combat pay, his hazard bonuses, and the small explosive tech stock he'd invested in a decade ago, and he'd bought a house. Not a condo, not a rental, but a house. A sanctuary. A fortress of quiet. He bought it sight unseen through a private LLC in the famously exclusive gated community of Willow Creek Estates, a place with ancient oak trees, quiet, winding streets, and a reputation for obsessive privacy. It was, he thought, the perfect place to finally be still. He was driving his old, unassuming but meticulously maintained Ford F-150, wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans. The t-shirt, a gift from his unit, was the only ostentatious thing about him. He pulled up to the massive wrought iron gates, a small, ridiculous-looking guardhouse attached, a monument to petty tyranny. He didn't have the resident sticker yet. He had closed on the house yesterday. He pressed the call button. A voice, muffled and annoyed, crackled over the speaker. "Yeah?" "Hi, my name is Marcus Thorne," Marcus said, his voice calm and polite, a voice trained to soothe and command. "I just bought 1250 Gardenia Lane. I'm here to move in. I don't have the gate sticker yet, but I have the paperwork." The speaker went dead. A moment later, the guardhouse door opened and 2 men in cheap navy blue police-style uniforms walked out. The HOA patch on their shoulders was the only thing that distinguished them from real cops, and even that looked like it had been bought online. One was young Todd. The other, Brian, was older, with a beer gut straining his duty belt and the dead, arrogant eyes of a man who had failed the real police academy and now wielded his minor authority like a cudgel. Brian swaggered over, tapping on the glass with a thick, meaty finger. Marcus, sensing the immediate, unearned aggression, the same kind he'd seen at checkpoints in Fallujah, rolled his window down. "This is a private, restricted community, buddy," Brian sneered, his eyes raking over Marcus, the truck, the Navy SEAL t-shirt. His gaze was an instant, derogatory calculation. Black man. beat-up truck, stolen Valor shirt. In Brian's tiny racist mind, the equation was simple. Threat, criminal, liar. I understand that, Marcus said, his voice still level. As I said, I'm the new owner of 1250 Gardenia Lane. My name is Marcus Thorne. I have the closing papers right here. I don't care what you have, Brian snapped. I'm tired of your kind construction workers, delivery drivers, casing the joint. You're not a resident. I've never seen you. You're lying. License and registration, now. This was the first illegal move, the first abuse of power. He wasn't a cop. He had no authority to demand ID from a driver in a non-moving vehicle on a private road. But Marcus, trained to de-escalate, complied. He handed over his driver's license. Brian looked at it, his lip curling. This address is on the south side. You're lying. I just bought the house, Marcus repeated, his patience, a resource he had in superhuman reserves, beginning to wear thin. The address on my license hasn't been updated yet. It's a 24-hour process, sir. The word sir was a mistake. It made Brian feel powerful. It validated his fragile ego. Sir? Yeah, that's right, I am. And sir is telling you that you're a trespasser. I'm going to have to ask you to step out of the vehicle. You're not a police officer, Marcus said, his voice no longer polite. It was flat. It was cold. It was the voice he used on missions, the one that made hardened men check their gear. You are HOA security. You have no right to detain me. You have no right to demand I exit my vehicle. You are, in fact, illegally harassing me. Now either you open the gate or you call the real police, who will then verify my ownership with the HOA president, Admiral Henderson, and you will be fired. The color drained from Brian's face, replaced by a surge of pure animalistic rage. He had been challenged. He had been disrespected by this man, in his world. This calm, articulated defiance. This was not the script. He was supposed to be scared. He was supposed to grovel. This existential threat to Brian's entire fragile worldview was a match to a fuse. You threaten me? Brian choked out, his hand instinctively going to his hip. You're obstructing. You're a 1096, a suspicious person. You're armed. He hadn't seen a weapon. He was just lying, fabricating probable cause, creating a narrative for the report he would write later. Get out of the truck! Get out or I'll pull you out! Marcus knew this was the pivot point, the moment of no return. The man was unhinged. If he stayed in the truck, the fake cop would break his window and it would get messy. He held up his hands, open, non-threatening. I am exiting the vehicle, he said, in a slow, clear monotone. He opened the door and stepped out, standing tall, a solid 6'3" wall of disciplined muscle. He was, by every measure, twice the man Brian was. And Brian hated him for it. You think you're a tough guy? Brian screamed, shoving Marcus in the chest. It was like shoving a granite statue. Marcus didn't budge. He didn't even blink. This enraged Brian even more. You think that shirt means something, huh? Stolen Valor. You probably got that at a yard sale. You're a fake, just like your story. Calm down, Marcus said, his voice a low command. Brian, man, just chill, the younger partner Todd said, his voice shaking. He looks like he might be. He's nothing, Brian shrieked. And I'm the law in Willow Creek, and I'm placing you under arrest. You don't have that authority, Marcus said. And that's when Brian, his ego shattered, his racism validated in his own mind, his power completely and totally challenged, made his final fatal mistake. He unholstered his weapon. He pulled the slide, chambering around. He pointed it at Marcus's chest. On your knees, hands where I can see 'em, he screamed. And that's when we came in. With Marcus, his mind a steel trap, slowly moving his hand behind his back, feeling the grip of his own P-226. He was 100% in control. He was letting this happen, letting this fake, pathetic cop walk himself off a cliff. He could have ended Brian's life in the space of a single breath. He could have disarmed him, broken his arm, and had him on the ground, weeping, before Todd even unclipped his radio. But he waited. He was a professional. He let the amateurs hang themselves with their own rope. "Brian, what in the ever-living hell are you doing?" The voice that cut through the air was not a yell. It was a roar. It was a true command voice, a voice that had crackled over the intercoms of aircraft carriers, a voice that had sent men into battle. It was a voice that expected and received instant, unthinking obedience. Brian froze, his gun hand wavering, as if the voice itself had slapped him. A black Escalade had screeched to a halt, the HOA president's decal gleaming on the windshield. A man in his late 60s, ramrod straight, wearing a golf shirt and exuding an aura of pure, undiluted authority, stalked toward them. It was Admiral, retired, James Henderson, the HOA president, and more importantly, Marcus's old boss from JSOC. "Sir," Brian stammered, his gun still pointed, his brain short-circuiting. "Sir, this man, he's a trespasser. He's armed. He's... The Admiral didn't even look at Brian. His eyes were on Marcus. A slow, stunned smile spread across his face. "Marcus? Senior Chief Thorne? Is that you? What in God's name are you doing home? I thought you were still in theater." Marcus finally, let his body relax, the tension flowing out of him. He brought his hands from behind his back, empty. "Admiral," he said, a small, tired smile on his face. "Good to see you, sir. Just trying to get to my new house. 1250 Gardenia. Seems your welcoming committee is a little aggressive." The Admiral's smile vanished. His face turned a shade of purple that Marcus had only seen once before, in the Pentagon, during a failed briefing. He turned his head, his gaze settling on Brian. He saw the drawn gun. He saw Brian's finger on the trigger. "Brian," the Admiral said, his voice so cold it could freeze fire. "Put the weapon away!" Brian, shaking, fumbled with the gun, trying to holster it, and dropped it. The gun clattered to the pavement, a perfect, gleaming monument to his incompetence. You know this man?" Brian whispered, his world collapsing. "Know him?" the Admiral roared, finally unleashing his full four-star fury. "This is Senior Chief Marcus Thorne, United States Navy SEALs. He's run ops that you couldn't survive in your video games. He has more confirmed, well, that's classified. But this fake shirt you're sneering at, this man earned it in blood and fire and places you will never go. He's my new neighbor. And you drew your weapon on him. He's a real..." Todd, the partner, whispered, his face white as a sheet. "He's more real than you will ever be, you pathetic mall cop," the Admiral spat. "He's a resident. And you just assaulted him. What do you think? Should these fake cops just be fired and lose their security licenses, or should they be in jail for pulling a gun on a resident? Type 1 if they should just be fired and banned from the state. Type 2 if they deserve to be in a federal prison for aggravated assault and a hate crime. Let me know in the comments. And like this video, because the takedown is just getting started." Brian was babbling, a pathetic broken sound. I didn't know. He's black. He's in a beat-up. He looked suspicious." He stopped, realizing what he had just admitted. The racist poison now out in the open, hanging in the air. The Admiral's eyes went dead cold. "He's what?" "I mean, his truck. It looked suspicious. He said he was moving in. I was protecting the community. I was doing my job." "Your job?" the Admiral said, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "Your job is to check stickers and open a gate. You are not police. You are not law enforcement. You are a deterrent. And you just assaulted a decorated war hero. because he looked suspicious. You just confirmed every racist, prejudiced, ignorant stereotype I have been fighting to disarm in this community. He turned to the other guard, Todd. Officer Todd, give me your badge, and his. You are both fired, effective immediately. Your firm's contract is under review, which means terminated. Sir, you can't. I am the HOA president. I can and I will. He turned back to Brian, who was now just a weeping, terrified man in a cheap uniform, still staring at his gun on the ground. And you, drawing a weapon on a resident, under color of authority. That is aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Marcus, do you want to press charges? The real police are on their way. Marcus looked at Brian, a man so small, so pathetic, he was barely worth the energy of his anger. He thought about his own hand, still near his pistol. He could have ended this man's life. He chose not to. That was the difference between them. Yes, sir, Marcus said, his voice calm and clear. I do. I want to press charges, and I want the body cam footage from both of them. I want to see their state certifications, which I guarantee are either fake or from a 4-hour online course. And I want this entire security firm investigated from the top down. Good. The Admiral nodded, as the first siren, a real one, wailed in the distance. We'll shut them down. We'll bankrupt them. He clapped Marcus on the shoulder. Welcome to the neighborhood, Senior Chief. It's usually quieter than this, I promise. We need more men like you here. As they walked toward the Admiral's Escalade, leaving the two former cops sitting on the curb waiting for the real police to arrest them, the Admiral's phone rang. He answered, his tone all business. Yes, Mr. Secretary. Yes, he's here. He's safe. But we have a problem. The security firm, Patriot Executive Solutions. It's the same one that's been patrolling the other neighborhoods, the ones where we've had those specific break-ins, the ones targeting defense contractors. The Admiral looked at Marcus, his face grim. This wasn't just a racist stop, Marcus. They might have been waiting for you. They might have known who you were all along. What happens when a Navy SEAL realizes his new, quiet neighborhood is actually the center of a domestic espionage ring, and the fake racist cops were just the tip of the spear? Subscribe for part 2. You do not want to miss this.